Hi, I'm Phil Davison for the 1959 Guitar Company, and I'm here demonstrating our Tricone guitar. As you can see, it's a metal-bodied Tricone guitar with 3 small cones instead of the 1 big cone, and a T-bridge underneath there to capture the sound. The neck it looks wide, and I don't really know why it looks so wide, because this is exactly the same size when you measure it compared to our style O guitar. And it's a normal width for a wide-necked guitar, but I think maybe it's these 3 dots or something, or the way that the body looks around there, but it looks wider than it is, which is actually kind of nice because it isn't as wide as it looks, and it looks like it's comfortable for finger picking, but the fingers, it's still wide enough to get your hands around. I actually really like the neck on this guitar. I think it's a really pleasant guitar for my particular way of playing. Like all these guitars, it's a flattish profile, and that kind of encourages you to finger pick it. It's sort of a guitar that's sort of set up for that, and it's what it wants to do. In terms of appearance, it's a matte finish, as you can see. It's a brass body with a plating on it which has been matted, and that means it doesn't pick up fingerprints. So if you just touch the electric style O, it leaves a mark, and you've got to wipe that off, or else it looks pretty obvious that it's been touched. With this one, it doesn't show the fingerprints at all. So it's a bit more low maintenance in that respect. In some places, it almost looks like it's been touched with a bit of aging, like the vintage style O, like the vintage Duolian, but it's not really like that. It's a new guitar with a matte finish, and it just doesn't seem quite so in your face. So it's not as in your face, bright, bold, brand new as the chrome style O, but it's not deliberately aged like the vintage Duolian, which is a nice kind of halfway measure there. With this big cover plate, which is kind of Art Deco, it's one of those things that I used to hate the look of these guitars. Like, how could someone make a guitar that looked like that? And over time, I've actually grown to quite like it. It's kind of Art Deco, almost steampunk, and it has a certain sort of weird, almost 19th century mechanical engineering look to it, which is really quite funky. But that's a matter of personal taste. The T-bridge, for some people, is an issue, in that some people find that this part here stops them from getting their palm in to dampen the bass strings. Now, I don't find that an issue myself. I can dampen the bass strings just by getting my hand there a little bit. I might be picking a little bit further forward, but hardly enough to matter. It doesn't worry me, but it does worry some people. Some people prefer the simple strap cover that you get with the biscuit bridge style. This is just the way it is. I find it fine, but as I say, some people don't. In terms of sound, it is not as raucous as the Duolian, but it can be almost as raucous. It is not quite as loud as the Duolian, but it's almost as loud. But on the other hand, it's capable of a lot more subtlety than the Duolian. It's a very flexible sounding guitar. It can do a lot of different jobs, and that's the reason why I particularly like it. The 3 cones seems to produce a more subtle, complex sound rather than the more simple sound you get out of 1 cone. I suspect that that's it, but the effect is that I find that this guitar seems to be able to do more things. The Duolian is a blues beast. It can be almost a beast. It can sit beside the Duolian almost, but not quite. But then it can do a whole lot of other stuff. Let's try the resonance test. So I'm going to pluck the top string and leave the other strings, pluck the top string and then mute it, leaving the other strings to vibrate. Not quite as long or as loud as the Duolian, but definitely much longer and louder than the 59 Special wooden body guitar. Bottom string, not especially long, but it's still there. Yeah. With a bit of slide. So you still have that mingling of overtones that you get with a slide guitar. The microphone position is probably quite important for you to hear that. I don't know whether I'm actually getting it or not. I'll put a finger pick on. Not that I'm a great finger pick player, just to sort of show you that it can get up there. So it's you know, we're talking about something which is almost as resonant as the Duolian, not quite as bass heavy as the Duolian. It's a bit more mid-rangey, but it's more subtle, and as I say, I find it can do more jobs. Let's take it to standard tuning. Right, here we are in standard tuning. Now, I tend to play with the meat of my fingers, and I find that this guitar seems to respond better to the meat of my fingers than the other guitars do. Now, that could be because I've put medium gauge D'Addario strings on here, not the top two strings, but the bottom four strings are all slightly lighter gauge than the factory gauge, and that is a nice setup, I think. Well, it's a nice setup for me, because it fits my style of playing better. Let's try some single note flat picking. Now, Temple Red used to play Tricone for single note flat picking. That does work very nicely. It cuts through more than you would ever cut through on an acoustic. And there's that nice mixing of the overtones, like those overtones are ringing on with every note, so long as I'm not actually deliberately muting them. So I think it works very nicely. The Duolian is perhaps a shade better for flat picking single notes. Let's try that just with the fingers. You'll notice how the Duolian has a stronger lower mid bottom end. This one is a bit more mid-rangey overall. So it works nicely in that sort of jazz comping thing. How does it go? Little pick. try a middle finger pick. That's a say I'm not much of a fingerpick player, but you can hear how loud and how raucous the sound that this thing makes with a middle fingerpick is. It's a certain sort of match, the middle fingerpick and the middle guitar. It goes together really well if you want that really strident, in-your-face sound. The Duolian does that a shade better, but this one can still almost match that. So overall, I like this guitar because it fits my particular playing style. It's got a more sophisticated tone. The brass body's a little bit sweeter and not so clangy as the Duolian steel body. The metal body is a lot more pronouncedly resonator-ish than the 59 Special. It's got a big body, unlike the Style O, which has got a slightly smaller body and that sounds a bit smaller. So this is kind of like the one that does almost everything pretty well, and it does for the sort of playing that I do. It works really well. It's the one where all the things work together for me. Now for you, if you want something more strident, obviously the Duolian, something more introverted, 59 Special, something more electric, Style O, you make your own choices. But I particularly like this one.